We're live in the hive, and I just forgot something. I forgot that I need to get my phone. I think I lost it. All right, we're not recording on Anchor, so we're only on Periscope, YouTube, Twitch. Hey everybody, hey Janet. Miss you. I miss you too. I missed everybody. And it does feel like it was a long weekend. Not in a bad way, but it was just really long. I don't know, I guess it was very relaxed and everything went so slowly, you know? And what did I do this weekend? I swam. Yeah, that's basically what I was doing all weekend. I was in a pool all weekend. And not just one pool. I was in multiple pools. Each place that I've been to had a pool. So I was just swimming all weekend. Past couple weeks actually I've been swimming a lot. And things, just constantly something happening. And each time I think that it's the worst thing in the world. First of all, each time that I think it's gonna be fine, and you know, this time I'll be okay. This place that I'm in is gonna be permanent. Each time I think where I'm gonna be is gonna be permanent, turns out something goes wrong, and it's not permanent. And then each time I think something is gonna go wrong and that it's all over, it's not over. Something changes and it goes back up. So basically, what we learn from this is that life isn't stagnant. It's always gonna be going up and down, and there's always a change. Never be too comfortable when you're up, because you're gonna go down. Never be too comfortable when you're down, because you're gonna go up. I mean, obviously you're not gonna get too comfortable when you're down, unless you're depressed. If you're depressed, you're gonna stay comfortable when you're down. You're just gonna be like, it's over and I don't even feel like it going back up, which actually I feel like very often. Hey Steph, I had a lot of fun with Steph. We went and we saw my favorite band. It was kind of like, I think here's the thing. I don't even know if Fantagram is my favorite band. 1 second. I don't even know if Fantagram is my favorite band. I think it's my favorite band since I always, I've been listening to them for the past couple of years, so they just became like my band, But I don't even know if they're my favorite band. They might be. Steph and I are gonna go and see her favorite band soon, so that's exciting. All right, 1 second. I'm gonna tweet the YouTube link in case anybody wants the YouTube link. I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% going live. All right. I just took a DNA test, turns out I'm 100% going live. Steven says, do you believe in this philosophy of eat or be eaten, so to speak? I don't mean it literally, but it means there's no middle ground, so to speak, no holding pattern. Yeah, I do kind of feel that way. I feel like as long as, just life, the way life is just constantly moving around, and we're constantly changing, we're not inanimate objects, so just everything that is life is constantly gonna moving in some direction. It's either gonna be moving up, forward, becoming old, dying, being born, everything. So yeah, I have never had, and I don't even know, like, I for a while thought it was my problem that I was like, I wasn't, and I do still think that my life is kind of unstable a lot, but also I think I'm just like everybody else, maybe like, maybe a little bit more extreme in some ways, but I think everybody, you can't ever be too comfortable where you are because it's always gonna change. If you're in a really rough spot and you feel like life is just, I don't know, you feel like you just have the worst luck ever and life has it out for you and you're gonna just rot in somewhere, it's never gonna stay like that. It's always gonna change. And then if you think your life is great and perfect and everything's going great, it's, just don't be too excited. So that's the thing with me. I get too excited or too devastated, and sometimes you just gotta be like, just gotta ride with the waves. Hey, Griff. All right, so you like my flag? Here's the thing. This is not even my flag because all of my stuff is in the garbage. This past weekend has been a nightmare. This past couple weeks actually has been a nightmare, and I have been just constantly moving around. I've had problems with different living situations, and it got to the point where I do not have 90% of my things. They are gone forever. So basically, I'm I'm basically like a nomad, with my little suitcase, just like hopping around from one place to another, because I don't have my stuff, because my stuff are gone. And even my clothes, and my shoes, and my stuff, I feel like not a person, like, like in the Bible, what was it? Yeah, Esau's son, okay, Eliphaz, was told to go and kill Jacob, okay? Oh, wait. He was told to kill Isaac, okay? He was told by his dad to go kill my brother Isaac, okay? So Esau's son goes to kill his brother Isaac, and when he gets there, Isaac says, how about, wait. No, it was his brother Jacob. See, my brain isn't working. Kill his brother Jacob. My brain is not working. See, I've been irreligious for too long and I'm already forgetting the Bible. He tells his son, go kill my brother Jacob, okay? And so the son goes to kill his brother Jacob, and then Jacob says, wait, don't kill me. He says, don't kill me. Instead, take all my things, because a man with 0 possessions is basically a dead man. That's what he said. So basically, Eliphaz takes all his things, totally just like milks him of everything he has, all his wealth, whatever, and that's when the Bible considers him a dead man. To the point where he goes to get, he wants to go and like court Rachel, and he can't because he doesn't have any money, and he's like, he can't like give her a gift or whatever, and then he cries like, oh, I don't have anything to give you. See, that's what I feel like right now. I don't have stuff. I feel like a dead man, and this flag is not even mine. It's a dear friend's flag. Anyway. Alright. Diacritical, you know what I'm thinking right now. Okay. See, Diacritical is my moderator on Periscope. He's been amazing, and he's been he's been really, really weeding out the distractions. But then I was getting a lot of messages from people who were like, wait, but my comment wasn't so bad, and my comment wasn't so bad, and well, what did I say that was so offensive, blah, blah, blah. And then I messaged Diacritical and I said, hey, can you please be more lenient, because this person and that person, their stuff wasn't so distracting or whatever. And now he's being more lenient, and now I'm regretting that because you guys are so annoying. You guys on Periscope. I underestimated Diacritical's great work in the beginning, and now I have to deal with you annoying people. I shouldn't have. Okay. All right. I will stop complaining about you weirdos. But anyway, that's why YouTube, my YouTube crowd is so great. All right. So I feel like this phone is gonna fall down. By the way, I'm about to come out with a video, like a real legit video on how to do these live streams, and the app that I use, I'm gonna do like a little explainer on the app that I'm using. And if anybody wants to learn, because I know a lot of you want to learn how to do live streams and kind of do what I'm doing, you want to be able to do it from anywhere in the world, and I want to help you do it because it makes me feel good and want it to make you feel good. Steven is asking if I'm a Gen Xer or younger. I'm a millennial. I'm a millennial. There should be a song for that. Anyway, so what I like about America. Okay. The first thing that I like about America, guess what I'm about to say? You thought I was gonna say freedom. You thought I was gonna say the thing I like about America is freedom. No, not freedom. The thing I like about America is that people value freedom. It's the culture of valuing freedom. So everything that people are complaining about, this and that, it all goes back to freedom. It's a culture that values freedom, and not only values freedom, it's the culture that I like. That's what I like about America, is a culture that values freedom, but also values dreaming. And what do I mean by dreaming? This is what I mean. Personally, I would describe myself as free-spirited. I describe my friends as free-spirited. I think that, I don't live for the necessities of life. I don't live to just get by life, and I just have to have the job that's just gonna get me to the next step, and I just have to I'm just surviving, and I have to I have to get married to the person who's gonna good night, simulacrum. Good night, 5 Milla. Good night. I can't pronounce your name. It's a culture that values following your dreams. Other cultures, I really feel like anywhere I go, other cultures are not like this. Other cultures aren't like dreamy. They're not like, go follow your dreams, chase your passion, go and be free, my child. No, other cultures aren't like that. Maybe I have not come across a lot of cultures who are like that. I mean, I've come across other cultures who are like that. But, I don't know. There's something about the American dreaminess that I don't see in other places. And, hey, Timothy. Timothy says hello from Georgia. Georgia the country or Georgia the state? See, that's a big question. Steph says we're like the 10th freest country in the world, by the way. Is that a high number or a low number? I was looking up, by the way, in the Freedom Index, it said we're actually pretty unfree. Where was it? Based on the Human Freedom Index, I think depending on which thing you're factoring in, that's how free we are. And I think it keeps changing how free we are compared to other countries. Like technically how free we are. The culture is always going to be there. The culture of valuing freedom. As long as we don't get in the trap of losing our culture, that's Steph says, what's the point of valuing freedom if we aren't actually free? That's a good question, Steph. This is what I think. Even if freedoms change over time, because our freedoms do change over time, politicians change over time, as long as there is a culture that values freedom, you have a future that is set with the potential for freedom, because ultimately the people are what is going to influence the government and the future of government. And thankfully we live in a country where, I don't know, there's so much that could be fixed with our government system, but we do live in a country where our officials keep changing, our public officials keep changing. And sure, you can say like, X amount of people in Congress are Republican, or X amount are Democrat, or this and that, but those numbers really keep changing, even though we're still, even though in our lifetimes it may seem like a certain way, I don't know. California was a blue state for a long time. California was a red state, and they turned blue. I'm just using that as an example. I'm just saying, like, different states have changed. Our laws keep changing. Maybe not in a good way, because they say that we just keep getting new laws every day. According to the Mises Institute, every day the average American, on average, breaks 3 federal laws per day. Violates 3 federal laws, every day. And that is crazy. I'm looking through the comments. Okay, so yeah, so technically, if someone wanted to go after you, if the government wanted to go after you, they could just pick any of the federal violations that you don't realize that you're breaking and just use that to come after you, which is scary. But I do think, relative to a lot of countries, we are very lucky. And the culture is probably the most important thing. Personally, I come from a family of immigrants. My parents came here from Iran. They were refugees. They lived in Austria first. They got their visas in Austria, not Australia, Austria, which is in Europe. So they lived there. They got their visas to come to the United States because ultimately they wanted to live in the US. They didn't want to live in Europe. And then they got their visas and they came and they went and moved to Los Angeles. And my parents are very happy with their decision. They never wanted to go back because for people who come here from other countries that might be third world or almost third world or whatever, the difference is striking. The difference in culture, the way the government is. For a while, when I first started this, my career in writing and being open publicly about my political views or my different opinions about the government or this or that, my parents were freaked out. My mom would be like, don't say this. Don't go and write about this. They're going to come after you. The government, this and that, they're going to come after you. And I was like, Mom, this is America. They don't do that here. I mean, little did I know, whatever. But it's not like how it was in Iran. They won't like literally come and arrest you because you said something that was, you mentioned something about the United States, or like you criticized the government or whatever. It's different. Another thing is, and these are all things that we take for granted because we live here. I take for granted, but from the perspective of immigrants, they see the difference in a huge way. Another thing that they didn't have in Iran that we have here, the valuing women's rights. Women in the Middle East, I'm sorry to say, do not have a lot of rights. Not only are they treated like shit by the government, they have to have like, you can't do anything without a guardian. I mean, it's like that in Iran too. You need your husband to be your guardian. You're basically like your owner, like your dog, and you need an owner to like take you around places and make sure that you're gonna be okay and do this and that. You need your guardian to sign on your passport and allow you to go places. You need your guardian. You can't be seen in the street walking around with anyone other than your husband, or even just so many crazy rules. Like Saudi Arabia, like allowed women to drive or something. It was like last year or 2 years ago, and they made such a big deal about it. Everyone made such a big deal about it. It's like, dude, they allow women to drive. Like, isn't that a given? Like, I mean, are we supposed to celebrate that a country is now allowing women to drive, as if people are now letting their dogs get behind the wheel? These are things that I take for granted here, living in the US of A. And not that we shouldn't always be striving for freedoms, because as we said earlier, being stagnant, there's no such thing as being stagnant. You're not fighting constantly for something, you're always going to go in a different direction. So you always have to be moving in a direction. You can't just like be staying still and then just whatever. But yeah, I think we're in a pretty good place. Still, no matter what happens, I think we're still way, way, way farther ahead than a lot of other countries. What else about women? Oh my God, there's so many ways that being a woman is shitty in some of these countries. Like, I mean, culturally, it's like so accepted in these cultures for men to beat their wives, physically beat their wives. And before you say anything like, it's crazy. I try to sometimes get in the mind, because I have met people like that too. Like I'm still Persian. I still grew up in I didn't grow up in Iran, but I still grew up around a lot of Iranians. I didn't start speaking English until I was 6 years old because I was around so many Iranians. I only spoke Farsi. And so I get the culture, and I've met a lot of people who were beat by their husbands. And there's still a lot of people, a lot of immigrants who move here, and they're still practicing in that. And they still need time to get see, I don't like to use the word assimilated because people would get on my ass, they get angry. So I'm gonna say accumulated to the culture, okay? So they need time, get accumulated to culture. And And to me, I just try to get in the minds of people who beat their wives and think that that's a good thing. I mean, if you ask people who do that, they will say, this is the way the world is. This is how you keep your woman in place or whatever. Like, this is how life is. But when you've been in the United States for long enough, you realize this doesn't have to be how life is. Oh, Chris says acclimated. Yes, acclimated. That was the word. That was the word. Acclimated. Thank you. When you get accumulated to the culture, yeah. So, I mean, I try to like understand it, but ultimately it's just like totally just living in a different world. And when you've been in the United States long enough, you realize like, oh, like, that's not how the world has to be. I don't have to do all these things based on necessity. I don't have to, women in those cultures will go along with it too. They'll be like, like the girl's husband is like beating the shit out of her, and she'll go along with it, and you'll be like, why? Like, you're in America. Like, why are you putting up with this? You don't have to. Like, you're not even in you're not even in there anymore, in place where you need to be subjected to that. You're in America, and they'll be like, well, this is the way the world is. Like, I'm not gonna, and so like, the longer people like that live here, the more they realize, oh, maybe this isn't how the world has to be. Like, maybe this isn't how the world has to be. Maybe I could do more, and maybe I don't have to stay in this situation. So that's actually, the truth is, that's probably the thing I love most about America. I know that there's so many other important things, probably, but to me, as a woman who, like, I don't know, I'm just really biased. That's the thing that I care about the most, actually, is that women are treated like shit in other places, and that everyone just, like, not everyone, obviously not people in the United States, but people in those countries and people in those cultures, and like, I grew up around a lot of those people, are just like, oh, well, this is the way the world is, it's a man's world, so you just, that's just how it is, you just have to accept it. It's like, nope, I don't have to accept it, because I live in America. That's what I get to say. If there wasn't America, I wouldn't be able to say that. I wouldn't be able to say, I live in America, so it doesn't have to be like that, huh? Anyway, alright, so another thing that's pretty cool about being in America is smartphones. That's like a really random thing, but we all have smartphones. In fact, I'm trying to find this study. There is a study that I was just looking at right now, and it shows that after China, we, American in the United States, are the country with the highest amount of smartphones. And that's really interesting to me, not because smartphones are interesting and I'm doing this entire show on a smartphone and nothing else, really nothing else. This whole thing, everything I do, all my filming of everything is done on a smartphone. So it's pretty cool because even and we have a lot of poverty in this country. We have a lot of people who are on welfare, a lot of people who, can barely afford to feed themselves. And everybody has a smartphone. In fact, let me show you the percentage of people with smartphones. Every 96% of this country has phones. Only 4% of this country doesn't have phones. And they're probably basically the Amish. Probably that 4% is the Amish. Everybody else has phones, okay? And and 81% of the United States has a smartphone. Chris says, I remember when there was no internet. It's crazy that in such a short amount of time, 96% of Americans have smartphones, and the 4% probably don't have smartphones, not because they can't afford it, but because they're Amish. Okay, 81% of Americans have smartphones. Men and women, 98% of men have phones. 95% of women have phones. 99% of millennials have smartphones. 95% of, the older before millennials have phones. And even people who are retired, 65%, age 65 and over, 91% of them have phones. According to race, 96% of white people have phones, 98% of black people have. The Amish, I knew it. Even people with no education have phones, 96% all across the board. Even people who make less than $30,000 a year have smartphones. Even people who, urban populations, suburban populations, rural populations, everybody has phones. Not only does everybody have phones, everybody has a laptop. Even people living in poverty have laptops. Fart Magnus says you're obsessed with the Amish. I actually am very, very interested in the lives of the Amish. Very interested, and I still haven't gone to Lancaster. And everyone thinks that I'm saying it and like, everyone thinks I'm just saying it and like, to make fun of the Amish. Dude, I grew up in an ultra-Orthodox Jewish community, and there's so many similar things between that community and the Amish community. My interest in the Amish is very genuine, and and I still intend to go and like, I know Amish people don't like to when you take videos and film, but like in some way I just want to go and be part of that world and just see what it's like, and then come out and tell you guys about it. Champagne Nechi Catchy says, wow, now I can tweet my GoFundMe page for my medical debts. Thanks, America. Yeah, you can tweet GoFundMe, you can tweet your GoFundMe, and it works. Someone made a GoFundMe as a joke, and people are still harassing me about it, but someone made a GoFundMe as a joke, and I made like $2,500 from it. Toad says, if you make fun of the Amish on here, they will never know. That's funny. Okay. Let's see. Safest country in the world. Safest country in the world is Iceland. I've been to Iceland, by the way, and it was pretty safe. It was actually great. I definitely recommend Iceland, and you know what? I'm going to do a live stream about Iceland, because I think everyone should go and see Iceland. It's so underrated, and there's so much that we can learn from the Icelandics in every which way. They just have such a great culture, and they have so many great natural resources, and they rely a lot on Greenland for hydraulic power. I'm gonna take Steph with me to Iceland, and they rely a lot on Greenland for their hydraulic power, because right now they're getting most of their hydraulic power from their own glaciers, which are they're basically, those glaciers are melting, so they're losing it. So now they're relying a lot on Greenland. So it's interesting to see how that's gonna go with Trump's. Now Trump is talking about buying Greenland. And everyone thinks it's a joke, but there is a reason. There is a real thing about Greenland that's valuable. Everyone thinks Greenland is just like a big block of ice. Greenland is the last place where Iceland is relying on for a lot of their resources. Even though, like Greenland is not, like a rich country like Iceland. They're not like, their people aren't healthy and this and that like the people in Iceland are. In fact, there's a really high suicide rate in Greenland, and they have very, very high alcoholic rate. My friend's actually in Greenland right now, and she was telling me like, wow, it's like really shitty. Like a lot of the, the living standard, and the people are just drinking all the time, a lot of depression. They can be cold, not cold by like, weather, but cold just in the way they're interacting with you. And it's not like that in Iceland. So there's a lot to do in Greenland. Like there's a lot that can be accomplished in Greenland that needs help in Greenland, and there's a lot that we can benefit too. My back is hurting. I have back problems. What else is there to do in Greenland? I mean, there's the Northern Lights, which are very beautiful. There is, I don't know about Greenland, but when I was in Iceland, there's volcanoes in Iceland. The natural resources in Iceland are beautiful. Like, it's so underrated. Like, if you haven't been to Iceland, you should definitely go. And they love tourists. The floor, like, it will be really cold, right? But their floor is, like, their ground, they have a lot of, like, it's called geothermal heat. So, like, the floor is heated. The ground, you step on the ground, like, you could be freezing cold, but you step on their ground, like their soil, and it's hot. Because in that part of the world, the core of the earth is like closest to the surface. So that's why their ground is very hot. They've got a lot of hot springs, natural hot springs, and you see them, like you'll be near one of them, and you'll see like the water bubbling out of the earth. And it's like the most spectacular thing ever. And some of them, it's called geysers. Some of them will even shoot up water, hot water, from the ground. It's like mind-blowing. And yeah, what else? I mean, most, you can drink their water. It's very clean. Most they eat a lot of seafood. Everything is, it's healthy. The kind of seafood that they would eat there, here would actually be very expensive, because like when I was living in California, my mom would pay so much money to buy like Alaskan salmon, because the salmon that was like, near LA was just gross and polluted. Anyway, why am I talking about Iceland and Greenland in a live stream about the United States of A? I don't know. Maybe it's because eventually Greenland could be part of the United States of A. We'll see. Okay. So the fact that only about 33% of people in the world have phones, but 96% of Americans have phones. Only about like a third of the world has phones, but 96% of Americans. That's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal. Actually, the country with the highest, not the most smartphones, but like the highest statistically amount of smartphones is actually Sweden. So, but we still beat everybody else. All right. India also has a lot of smartphone users, and so does Brazil. India and Brazil. India and Brazil. Okay, what's this one that I got? Highest taxes. Okay. Wow. Countries with the highest taxes. What is this? Top rates by country? Whoa. Apparently, Sweden, correct me if I'm wrong, apparently, am I seeing it correctly? Apparently Sweden has a 61.85% tax rate. Am I reading it wrong? I feel like I'm reading it wrong. 61.85%? Is that possible for a country to have a 61.85% tax rate? Brazil has like 25.5%. Wow. 61.85% Sweden tax rate. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's... Here's another thing. Like, I noticed about Scandinavian countries. Scandinavian countries actually are doing pretty well. Like, usually they do pretty well. I mean, I don't know about now, relative to before, this and that. But usually they do pretty well. And I think it really has to do with, like, when I was in Iceland, Iceland is a socialist country, from what I understand. Iceland is a socialist country. They do pretty well. They've got high taxes. But the other thing to note is, like, Iceland is so different than the United States. Like, Iceland is a small country. They're in the north. They're so, they don't get a lot of immigrants. You can tell right away if somebody is not an Icelandic, because the Icelandics are all related to each other. They really are. They all look the same. They're all like, blonde looking, whatever, like they all look very similar. It's a very like tight-knit culture. And so like they all, generally have a lot of similar, this is my impression. Similar backgrounds, similar culture, similar wants, needs. So like if like money was taken from taxes and went to like a certain type of schooling, it's more likely that everyone would be totally for it, because they're all kind of coming from the same place. You know what I mean? It's like a smaller place, and it's a more cohesive culture. It's a more cohesive culture, and it's not a lot of people. It's not like trying to impose socialism on billions of people like in China. Like Iceland is pretty small. The entire country of Iceland is still like just a fraction of Los Angeles. We're pretty big here. We've got a lot of immigrants here. We've got a lot of, business back and forth, so it's very different. Countries with freedom of speech. Wow, okay. According to the World Population Review, the country with the highest ranking of freedom of speech is, guess what? Bum-ba-dum! The United States. Freedom of speech is so important, and I love freedom of speech. The country with the highest rate of freedom of speech, highest ranking, is the United States of America. And then after that, it's so weird, but after that it says Brazil. Does Brazil really have such a high freedom of speech ranking? That's pretty interesting to me. Alright, that's according to the World Population Review. Nothing like your own country and language Someone is saying stop hating on Iceland. I'm not hating on Iceland. Stop pulling something out of your ass. I'm not hating on Iceland. In fact, I just told everybody to go to Iceland because it's a cool place. People just want to get mad at everything. They're just like looking for a reason to get mad. They're looking for a reason to hate. It's like, guys, I'm not here with an agenda. I'm just here to tell you what I like about the United States. And also, I happen to mention some cool things about Iceland from when I was there. And y'all don't need to get so, like, wrapped up in it. This isn't politics. I'm not talking about politics. That's not my thing anymore. I'm not hot take this article they wrote, this twitchy article about me, called me a hot take haver. Hot take haver Pardes. I'm not a hot take haver anymore. I'm just here to talk about random shit that I like. Okay. List of countries by economic freedom according to the Economic Freedom of the World Index report published by the Fraser Institute. The Index of Economic Freedom published by the Heritage Foundation and the Wall Street Journal. According to this, Hong Kong has the highest rank of economic freedom. Hong Kong. And then Singapore. I mean, these are countries where, I personally know a lot of people who do business in these countries. In Hong Kong and Singapore, they go to Hong Kong pretty often. One of them is my brother-in-law. He goes to Hong Kong. A lot of people that I know will do business there. Hong Kong, Singapore, then New Zealand, then Switzerland, then Australia, then Ireland, then the United Kingdom, then Canada, then the UAE, then Taiwan, then Iceland, then the United States. We've got some work to do to get to the top. But that's just one report. Different reports have different statistics, and they go by different parameters and whatever. Economic freedoms. Your disk is almost full, according to my computer. Index of freedom in the world. According to the Cato Institute, they based the Human Freedom Index by rule of law, security and safety, movement, religion, association, assembly, and civil society, expression and information. Guys, do you see everything? Like, do you see my legs and everything? Because that would be embarrassing. Identity and relationships, size of government, legal system and property rights, access to sound money, freedom to trade internationally, regulation of credit, labor, business, expression and information, and that's it. The Human Freedom Index is, according to the Cato Institute, the most comprehensive freedom index so far created for a globally meaningful set of countries. It covers 162 countries for 2016, the most recent year for which sufficient data is available, and includes 3 countries that were added this year, which is Belarus, Iraq, and Sudan. The index ranks countries beginning in 2008, the earliest year for which a robust enough index could be produced. All right. Let's see, the countries with the highest freedoms. The countries with the most freedoms, top 10, New Zealand. In every report that I've seen, New Zealand has the highest ranking. The United States is pretty up there, though. I mean, the United States is not in the top, not even in the top 10, but we're pretty up there. We're at 17th place. following. We're at the same place as Sweden. Sweden. I don't know why I was just gonna say Stefan. Sweden. The United States and Sweden is tied for number 17 in terms of the freedom. New Zealand is at the top, then Switzerland, Hong Kong, Australia, Canada, Netherlands, and Denmark. And Ireland and the UK. Why is the UK considered more free than the US? That's strange. That's very strange to me. New Zealand, Hong Kong. Hong Kong is top for economic freedom. Argentina is doing well in personal freedoms, but very poorly in economic freedom. Venezuela is like by far the worst country when it comes to economic freedom. And let's see. Yemen is also by far the worst country when it comes to personal freedoms. Yemen and Syria. All these, Iraq, Libya, Sudan, Egypt, Burundi, Iran, Saudi Arabia, all these like Middle Eastern countries are all doing the worst when it comes to personal freedoms. When I say personal freedoms, I mean personal freedom. When I say personal freedoms, I mean like women's rights, LGBT, freedom of expression, freedom of association, assembly, religion, relationships. Those are all personal freedoms. So Middle Eastern countries, by far, the worst when it comes to personal freedom. And Venezuela is the worst when it comes to economic freedom. New Zealand is doing the best in all forms. Hong Kong is the best when it comes to economic freedom. Then Singapore. Where are we? Where is our country? The United States. The United States is actually not bad. We're not bad. We're pretty up there. We're up there next to, Ireland and Canada and Australia and Germany. Although Germany, I heard some pretty bad things about their freedom of expression. I heard like you can't say certain things if you say it, you'll go to jail. I don't know. That's what I heard about Germany. I just took a DNA test, turns out I'm 100%. So many angry people today. Is it because it's a Monday? Is that why so many angry people today? I just turned on Twitter and there's so many angry people. And they're just looking for something to be mad at. And I'm just like, why? Why? It's a beautiful day. It's so nice. Such a beautiful day. Maybe I'm just too relaxed because I've kind of been on vacation the past couple days. And I'm not always going to stay like this. But, I've kind of been on vacation. I started, my new business. And it's just like, it's supposed to be stressful, but it's not. I feel relaxed because I've just been in a good place. I got out of that bad place. So then when I go on Twitter and I see all these people so upset, I'm just like, why? Don't feel like that. Please. Okay. But we're still the highest ranking country when it comes to freedom of speech, and that is pretty amazing. Okay, so now before we go, I want to say according the AEI, the American Enterprise Institute, these are all freedom think tanks, freedom-based think tanks. The American Enterprise Institute made a list of some of the things they interviewed immigrants from different countries, and they asked them to describe the thing that they love the most about living in America, and why, what drew them to live here, why they live here, what they love about living in America. And by the way, like if you came to live in America, there's a reason you came here. It's not that you just fell out of the sky and you were forced to live in the United States. So immigrants generally tend to have, the ones that I've met tend to have a very positive view of what it's like to live in America. Everyone is like, oh no, immigrants are treated poorly, this and that. From what I've seen, immigrants tend to have a high view of living here because they chose to live here. They weren't just forced to live here. They didn't drop from the sky. So really, if you want to appreciate what it's like to live in America, you should talk to immigrants, because they weren't just born here. They don't necessarily take it for granted. And if they won't admit it, then that's shitty, because mostly they do really, there is a reason why people come here, and they don't take a lot of the things that we take for granted. They don't take for granted. So or they shouldn't. So, according to immigrants, the best thing about living in America: free public restrooms. Every establishment has air conditioning, free public restrooms, clean streets. Anywhere I go in the world, I don't see garbage cans in the streets. We have garbage cans in the streets here, and that's pretty amazing. We take it for granted. Okay? Fireflies. That's one person said fireflies. We have fireflies here. Another person says showers and running hot water. This person says, I was born in the Philippines. Not having to fill buckets with water and boiling some over a stovetop was a big surprise for me. Another person says, buildings and bridges are so amazing. The infrastructure is good. It makes you think, wow, mankind did this. Another person says, small talks. I really didn't expect people to just strike up a conversation with someone they've never met before. Another one is people telling me I must be American based solely on my English skills, and disregarding my ethnicity feels weird. I like it. That's really interesting. People here are just used to referring to people as Americans, even if they don't look a certain way. Another person says, my dad was born in Trinidad. He says the first thing he ate when he came to the U.S. was pizza. He said that it was magical and that nothing has ever been as good as that first piece of pizza. Why pizza? I mean, isn't pizza like Italian? That's strange to me. Another person says the fireworks. I had moved on the 4th of July and I was quite young, but I still remember the fireworks. The fireworks are great. And by the way, you know what's so funny? I was in London one 4th of July. I was in London one 4th of July, and they had fireworks in London on 4th of July. How insane is that? They should be mourning. They shouldn't be having fireworks. Anyway, I thought that was awesome, and it was probably Americans who were doing that to rub it in the faces of the British, which is even more badass, if you ask me. Another person says, what surprised me was the social circles that existed in schools and in life. Back in Italy, schools didn't have the nerds, the jocks, the skater kids, the emos, or what else have you. People were all basically the same with minor differences in interests. Most everyone played soccer, was a casual gamer, and hung out in the town square at night. That's it. It may sound like an exaggeration, but 95% of my friends there were exactly like this. So when I came to school here, I was amazed by how the jocks would hang out at gyms and play 4 different sports after school, while the skaters headed off to find a park. It was so different, and I loved it, because while I could fit in back in Italy, I was always much more introverted and interested in nerd stuff. And in the US, I finally found people who were really like me. It was really unexpected, and you only notice it after spending a lot of time in America. Oh, that's really interesting. I didn't even think about that. The fact that people's differences are highlighted and encouraged instead of everyone being told to be the same. Everyone being programmed to be exactly the same. Another person says what they liked about America, another immigrant. Moving to the Deep South, I was expected to be met with stereotypical racist KKK type of folks. Luckily, everyone at my school was super friendly and helpful. Yeah, the South gets a really bad rep. Like, everyone is just, the whole thing about racist KKK, this and that. Dude, if you move to any of these countries in the world, these people who complain about America being racist, KKK, whatever, that's such a small fraction of the population. If you move to any of these countries around the world, just name any third world country. Any of those countries. Like, the amount of racism those people have, I can't even tell you. Like, against all different races, different sexuality, different this, that, it's almost laughable how it's kind of silly the way that Americans are portrayed to be the racist and KKK, whatever. It's not like that at all. Actually, I always felt being brown skin, I always felt, and see, you don't notice it now, but when I was little, I was always darker than the other kids. And I was always darker, and I always had my Persian food with me and whatever. And I really felt it then, that I was so different than the other kids. But I still always felt among white people, not when I was a kid, because when I was a kid, that was a different story. But now, I really do feel like at least the white people that I have been around have been pretty cool with other cultures, pretty cool with my background, and really interested in it. And in fact, more interested in it than other people have been, because Steven, thank you so much. Thank you, Steven. Really appreciate you. Stefan, super chats. I'm gonna change the software that I use on this, because YouTube's stealing all the super chats. Alright. Persian or Parisian? I'm not Parisian, I'm Persian. Like Persia, except Persia's dead. Now it's just Iran. I mean, not just white people, all Americans. White people, black people. I get a lot of love from black people. I get a lot from everybody. I just feel like the culture in America is pretty welcoming as far as I've, you know, as far as I've noticed. Repeal Shed says Persia is so much nicer sounding than Iran. I know, right? Because Persia was like an empire, you know? Like, thank you so much, Steven. Steven just sent another super chat, and I really appreciate it. Thank you, Steven. Sleep well to you too. I know it's a little bit late for everybody, and it's almost approaching midnight. I'm just gonna go through some more things that people said, immigrants said, and then I'm gonna let you go. Okay? Alright. Another thing somebody said, growing up I was taught the Vietnamese version of the Vietnam War in school. In my mind, I thought in America people don't talk about it since it's a shameful thing and the government would suppress discussions of it like in Vietnam. When I came here, I saw that people can speak openly about these things, even when there are disagreements. Another person said, I arrived at 15 from Mexico legally. I lived in poverty but never went hungry thanks to the social safety nets. My parents worked hard and had a business going within a couple of years. I graduated college and became an engineer. Fast forward 24 years and I'm making a 6-figure salary and living a very good life. The American dream is alive and well. Wow, good for this guy. The American dream is alive and well. Definitely my family is a product of that. Another person says, I remember when I was getting my driver's license in Trinidad, everyone told me to go with a few $100s in my pocket. It's very common you'll be asked to pay a bribe. Yeah. Yep. Apparently we don't do bribes here. It's not accepted to bribe in America, although, you know, people try. Another person says, the fact that no one was threatening to kill my family based off of our religious beliefs. That's a big thing. That's a big thing. That we're not getting killed because of our religious beliefs. It can be any religion. You could even be part of a cult, and no one's going to come and kill you and your family. Another person says, I'm the son of Korean immigrants. My dad said that Americans are probably the hardest workers in the world. He's worked in various international companies, and he admits that Americans are the easiest to get along with because of their versatility and open-mindedness. He flat out said that he prefers Americans leading projects over anyone else. Okay. Someone is asking if I'm Middle Eastern. Dude, where have you been this entire live stream? Yes, 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 yes. Yes, 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 yes. Another person says, space. Having a separate houses with a huge backyard is a luxury that's only for the rich in the Netherlands. This person is apparently from the Netherlands. Another person says, it was my second week in America and I was nervous when I was checking out 4 books at the local public library. I love libraries, and where I come from, you can normally check out 3 books. I thought, this being America, I could try my luck and add another book. The nice checkout girl proceeded my order. Out of curiosity, I asked her how many books I could check out in one go. Her answer was 75. To me, this symbolized what America stood for. Another person says, people with power are careful when dealing with ordinary people. Public servants in most third world countries are the masters and the ordinary public are the servants. This is not the case in the US. That's right. The politicians in our country are public servants, and we treat them as public servants. We don't treat them as our masters. We shouldn't treat them as our masters because they're not our masters. Maybe in other countries they might be. Another person says the most important thing I liked about the US is the awareness of people to fight for their rights, respecting others' views, and respect for humanity. This may be one of the reasons that it is very common for people to sue each other. While in other countries people will silently compromise and accept their situation as fate, it seems the US expects everyone to be aware of what he or she deserves. This is probably the best form of freedom. And here is what an American responded to all of these people's comments, all these immigrants. This is what an American responded. This American person said, "I would like to say something to all of the immigrants who have responded to this thread. As a natural-born American, thank you. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared. I spend a lot of time studying political issues, meaning that I get caught up for weeks or months at a time studying economics, history, logic, sociology, psychology, or anything else relevant. And I often go around for huge lengths of time with this floating sense of dread that everyone is doomed and the world is coming to an end. It really lifts my spirits to be reminded of the good things that make America unique in the world, and I'm also reminded that it is the millions of individuals making individual decisions every day that run this country." Wow, 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 wow. Great, 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 great. That's really nice. And, shoot, there was one more thing that I wanted to say, and I totally forgot what it was. I 100% forgot what it was. And I'm never gonna remember it. That sucks. I'm never gonna remember this. But we are pretty lucky, and we do take a lot for granted. And I think we take a lot for granted. We're always talking about how, like, you know, this country is like the most racist, and this country is the most, you know, we're just, the government is taking away everything, and you know, like, I don't know, like all these bad things, you know. But at the end of the day, we have the most highest freedom of speech. We still are a place where where immigrants are fighting to get in. Why is everyone scrambling to get in this country that is so racist? Well, there's a reason, because maybe we're not such a racist country. Maybe it is a country where people feel welcome, people feel safe, people feel that there's an emphasis on freedom, even if there's so much work that we need to do, and actually we're not so safe. We are, some of our countries, some of our states, some of our cities are like the most murderous cities in the entire world. But it's still America. We still have freedoms that you won't find anywhere else in the world, and we still have a culture that values freedom and the pursuit of freedom and following your dreams, and I think that's pretty freaking awesome. And by the way, like, I travel, like, you know, I travel a lot actually, and just people poop in like gross, like, toilets in other countries. I don't know, that's like a really random thing that I noticed, but we do tend to have higher living standards in general, and that's pretty cool. Okay. Enough bragging. And if you don't live in the United States, I'm sorry that if I offended you in any way. I'm sure your country is great too, and I'm sure that your country might have more freedoms in some ways, and there's so many different things that contribute to freedom, so everyone can gloat in their freedom, in their freeness. Anyway, Sweet dreams, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and subscribe to this channel because we've got a lot of exciting things coming up this fall. And also like this video, because if you don't, then I'm gonna come after you, and with a stick. Okay, bye 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 bye.